What's going on, guys? It is MurderInc here, and we got some crazy news. We have new things to talk about that weren't covered in the video about this new duplicate system, and I feel like I'm in an alternate dimension right now. Usually, I mean, I'm known by, like, I guess the people who hate watch my channel as the, I guess, plarium shill. Everything's always great from plarium, and I woke up a bit late yesterday, so I dropped my initial dupe system idea, and then the actual video came out, and I woke up, I saw all of these crazy things. I didn't end up watching the video. What I did instead was I went to content creator chat. I read through the feedback so far. Everyone was going nuts. They said, this is amazing, this is insane. So I started doing some reading on it. Once again, I didn't watch the video at all, and I read the systems out. I talked to a few people to get their feedback on it, and I just started streaming. I wanted to kind of talk about things, give my opinion on things, and it wasn't until 2 hours into the stream that I watched the video and saw the, I guess, visuals that went along with all the information that I did have on it. And honestly, not a huge fan of this system. I don't really understand why people are a huge fan of this system. Now, if you want to take the easy way out of this and what I'm saying here, you can say, Murder, you're a contrarian, you always disagree with everybody. That's just kind of like a cop-out. If you don't really want to be like combative with me and you just want to disregard what I'm saying anyways, the fact of the matter is I don't see any compelling argument showing me that this is a good system at all. And I'm going to get into that right now in kind of detail. I was expecting a lot of resistance on stream, but people were actually hesitant at first and ended up agreeing with me. So maybe by the end of this video, once you hear the new information I have about the duplicate system, you will agree with me as well. If you are on this mentality right now, this is amazing, this is crazy news going on. So with that being said, as everybody knows, we have this new video about the dupe system. They give us 3 options here, kind of like 3 different methods we can use our duplicates, and it looks pretty good. It does look pretty good on paper, but there's a few key flaws here, and one thing that really bothered me that I have to address early on is going to be, not once in this video did it say this isn't the final product. Now, why would I be bringing that up? So normally, if you remember the Doom Tower, in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you would see something saying this is subject to change, don't take this 100% factual because this is just an early idea. And as we can see here, it even says duplicate champion solution preview. So the first thing I clarified with employees of the company is, like I just said, this is all subject to change. So things that you see in the game, specifically the stats that you see in front of you here, 10% HP, 10% attack, 30 accuracy, resistance, defense, speed, this can all change. This is not set in stone here. So there's a lot of things that can go very wrong with this system here. And I'm not even sure why they brought this up if they weren't 100% going to lock this in. And the first thing I want to share with you guys that you may or may not know, I don't think they mentioned it in the video, is they are planning to get this out before 2022. That is the goal. That is kind of their timeline right now. If everything goes on schedule, we should get it a little bit before the holidays. If things don't end up heading on their right path of the schedule, they said don't be surprised if it is after 2022. But like I said, the main goal is to get it this year. So with that being said, this isn't going to be coming, I guess, anytime soon relative to what you consider soon to be plarium soon. This is coming right around the corner, but that is the first thing I did want to share with you guys here. And like I said, I was really surprised that they didn't at one point let everyone know in this video that all of this is subject to change. So the first thing I want to talk about is going to be kind of the last point they made here, and it's going to be these champions here. So people have been speculating, and they were very vague with what they showed. They didn't show the amount of currency you need. We all want to know that. And one thing I want to tell you guys is they do not plan to rotate these champions. That was the first kind of strike for me, saying, well, why not? I guess you can say, what if players pull a duplicate right after it happens? How are they going to pick a comfortable time to rotate these champions? But in my opinion, it should be done. There are so many legendaries in this game. To hold it to 6 is not ideal, and they're not just going to hold it to 6 champions. I do want to kind of clarify that before it looks like I'm misspeaking here. They're going to be adding champions to this as time goes on. They are not going to be adding overpowered champions, their quote, and one example was given of Warlord. So Warlord is considered an overpowered champion. I don't know who else is considered overpowered. To Plarium itself, they pick these champions based on analytics, what a lot of endgame players, because that's kind of who the token trader was aimed at from what I was told. And these champions you see in front of you were statistically champions that most players didn't have, who were considered endgame, who had tons of duplicate legendaries. Somehow they're getting these analytics. I would love to know how they actually have that, but that's going to be another topic here. So this is my main point. These are definitely good champions, but the question still remains, why wouldn't they do some type of rotating? So that was kind of the first thing I did not like about this system. And the second thing is, we don't know how much this is going to cost. What if it costs you 18 duplicates to get Sir Nicholas? That's just a random number, but it can be anything. So the important thing here is, in this video, Cirilla specifically says we're looking for feedback on this system. Everyone starts jumping for joy, and you come across as an overwhelmingly positive reaction to this entire duplicate system. They are going to release it with more detail. As it is, if people start complaining, they're going to say, well, the reaction was overwhelmingly positive, and they're going to use that to keep it in the game, which is why I have a big problem with companies kind of taking the community's word for it instead of basing everything off of analytics, releasing only finalized products and going from there. I really don't like the whole feedback thing, because players don't really know what they want. They really don't. And based on what I just said, if we consider this overwhelmingly positive, we can fall into and run into a lot of problems down the road. So another thing I want to talk about now is going to be faction guardians. Looks like Cirilla was just about to say a faction there. So 10% HP, 10% attack, 30 accuracy resistance. Like I said, this is all subject to change. One thing I want people to understand is adding speed to your account. If this is base speed, it's going to be affected by speed sets. So you could be potentially gaining lots and lots of speed. Now, I want to say probably 99% of the players aren't going to be able to fill out the legendary section of this all the way to the end for every single faction. I know personally I'm not going to be able to do that. I believe there are 2 factions I'm not going to be able to fill out. The number of players who are going to be able to do this is going to be very high. On top of that, I did see some people speculating you need 420 champions to fill out rare, epic, and legendary for each and every single faction. That's cool and all, but like I said, the amount of players that's going to apply to is very, very small. More likely than not, a lot of endgame players aren't even going to bother with rares unless there are specific ones in specific factions. They are going to use early game players. Rares are going to be a home run. Mid game players, late game players, all of the same thing applies. Rares, epics are going to be very desirable. However, if they're not taking these champions away from our vault, because as they did mention somewhere in this video, you can apply and get rid of champions here, it can cause some space issues, and I think that's one thing they do need to address probably sooner than later, because as we all know, you have to spend resources to unlock additional champion space, and now you have an incentive to keep that additional champion space, which is going to end up costing more resources for us as the players. The second thing here is going to be speed. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit lopsided for speed sets if it's applied directly to the base speed, or if they just add +6 at the end of all gear, all of that sort of stuff. So we have to kind of see how this is going to interact into the game. Second thing is, think about clan boss teams, think about dungeon teams. They're going to be speed tuned. If you activate this, you're going to have to re-gear your dungeon champions, which almost sounds like a penalty. Of course, we're getting great new stats here, but the fact that we would have to spend silver to compensate for a new system being added to the game, maybe it makes sense to you guys. To me, I see no logic in that at all. We should not have to spend resources to kind of adapt to a new system into this game that's supposed to be for the benefit of the players here. So I do think that is one point that they should seriously consider and look at. I'm not saying get rid of speed by any means, but it would be pretty annoying to have to take champions in and out of this slot every time we wanted to farm dungeons, every time we wanted to do clan boss. So I think there should be some sort of way to kind of mitigate all of that. The next thing I want to talk about is pretty obvious, and it's going to be champion empowerment. Now, we got zero detail on this, which in my opinion is a huge problem for people, and especially content creators, to approach this with an overwhelmingly positive approach. I think us as the players and the community have to be very careful with what comes next with this, because there are a lot of things that people may not realize off of just looking at this that can be detrimental down the line. So the first thing is going to be the obvious thing. How strong are these champions going to get? If they get too strong, the power creep is going to be insane. If they're not strong enough, people are going to say this is a complete waste of time. So how are they going to determine what that happy medium is going to be? The second thing is going to be what's going to happen with all of the upcoming releases of champions and the new factions that are going to come out here. Are they going to start considering the effects of champion empowerment and faction bonus when releasing new champions? Is every single new champion they release from now on going to feel very underwhelming to us because they're considering these additional external effects on these champions here? This is personally the first thing that came to my mind when I saw this system right here. Yes, it's cool that we can use duplicates to empower other champions. How strong, like I said, we need to know that before we judge any of this, and how this is going to affect the future of the game. Now, I don't even think Plarium has kind of considered this yet. Based on who I've talked to and what I've talked to about it, there were a few jokes that I'm not going to say here because it might upset you guys about what they said about future champions balancing all of that stuff when it comes to empowerment and champions that aren't currently in the game. And I can tell you for a fact, because I've seen them, there are lots of champions for the existing and new factions that are going to be coming out. So it's not like there's, I don't know, 10, 15 new champions and then they're going to stop releasing champions. So how are they going to incorporate this into this new empowering system? Because that's going to be a very strong talking point for sure. Outside of that, I think a lot of people realized some of the talking points kind of in the back of their head. And one thing that threw them off, and as someone who has come from some type of executive business background, I do understand this. As soon as they put this image right here into the picture, people started getting very excited and they pretty much forgot about most of what was said in the early parts of the video. They said, oh yeah, faction guardians, awesome, increased stats for all of our champions, empowerment, additional stats that we can use our legendaries with. But they got excited. Sir Nicholas, I mean, that's a champion that hits close to home for many players. He's a void legendary, so the rarest affinity legendary you can possibly get. He's a very strong legendary on top of things, and so I think there was a lot of focus on this, making this such an overwhelmingly positive view for most of the community. Now, there were a lot of people that kind of had a negative approach on this, as I did, and they did have rather similar reasoning to what I'm saying here now. However, they did agree with me that putting this at the end of the video, everyone knows as far as the video goes, first impressions don't really matter so much when it's content you're familiar with. It's the ending that kind of packs that final punch and leaves an existing mark on you that you're going to remember whenever you refer to a dupe system. So that is really a point I want to drive home, and this kind of goes back to the interview I did. A lot of people got really upset that I said I don't want to talk about the dupe system. When you're finished with it, it's fine, take your time, make it good. This is what happens when you want to release a hype video for people and get their feedback based on a hype video, so you can then use that to kind of solidify where you want to stand as a company with the dupe system. I think it was totally the wrong decision to release this video now without giving us all of the details. I think it's pretty much impossible to kind of gauge if this is going to be really good or really bad, because they just didn't give us enough information on this. And the information they did give, I was specifically told, once again, I know I've said it 4 times, all of this information is subject to change and nothing here is final. That is a point that I have to keep saying over and over again, because I don't know, it blew my mind. It blew my mind that you could have a video like this, you didn't say it anywhere, and that's just the facts of it. The last thing I want to show you guys is going to be kind of this sheet that someone sent me. I believe they got it from Reddit. It was for the whole faction thing that showed you rares, epics, and legendaries. I converted this to track the amount of legendary duplicates you do have, in case you're curious to see if you have enough to hit that 10 bonus, as well as to see which champions you can empower once the system does come out and it's deemed worthy, or if it's just better to use these champions as books. Because honestly, with the information I do currently have, that we all have about the duplicate system, it still might be worth it to use the champions as books instead of that extra stat gain if it's not crazy. So I'm going to leave a link to this. I'm going to share it. If you want to use this, input your own champions. Since so many people requested it on stream, all you have to do is go here and then hit make a copy, and it will copy it to your Google Drive. You can edit this however you want to. And so that's kind of the only point I wanted to talk about with that right there. And with that being said, that's where I currently stand on the duplicate system. I really wasn't impressed with it. I don't really think that a system that we've waited, what, 2 years for, that this really comes close to kind of answering the questions. I don't think it's in depth enough. I think, like I said already, we need specifics on this before we can determine how good it is, how bad it is. And one of the big problems I do see in the future is going to be the gap between the power creep between all players, spenders, non-spenders, medium spenders, insane whales, is going to extend even further, making Arena even less desirable. And keep in mind what content we have right around the corner. Going back to the interview once again, they said 2022 is going to be the year they focused on player versus player content. Now, releasing a system like this, I mean, this is a home run for Plarium, of course. They're going to make tons and tons of money off of that concept. And with the current proposed dupe system, it works heavily in the favor of players who are spending lots of money and new spenders, and that's the key right there. Showing empowerment, new spenders, focusing next year on player versus player content. That's a huge money grab for lots and lots of players. I don't personally think any players are going to be returning to the game for this duplicate system. I've tested this theory. I've showed a few players who have quit as long as a year ago, and they said that's just not good enough. Like, even with the specifics, they weren't convinced. They said there's no way I'd return. I have 5 duplicates of this, 6 of that from that long ago, and they said I just still have no interest in returning. And I kind of feel the same way. There's no way to get new champions out of it. There's no exchange system. There's a set amount of champions we have that's slowly going to be added to. So that's just where I'm coming from this. Let me know what you guys think. If you enjoy this content, like this video, give me your feedback in the comment sections. Do you agree? Do you think I'm just complaining for no reason? Do you see something that I possibly don't see, where maybe I'm just overblowing all of this? Did you know that this was all subject to change, or did you think this was 100% a sure thing as far as what we can expect as far as the numerical values you saw on the screen? I'm curious about that fact as well. So as always, guys, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss my next video, and I will see you all in the next upload.